Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue with the story of Tieu, a small, gentle woman who has been forced to endure far more pain than anyone could ever imagine. Make sure to watch until the end of today's video, so you can follow her journey and understand why someone who seems so fragile can actually be so incredibly strong. Now then, let's dive into the story. From the day Tieu stepped into her husband's home, it was as if someone had flipped her life to a completely different, darker page. Before, even in poverty, she still had laughter, she still had her mother beside her, and she still had a warm little kitchen glowing every night. But the moment she crossed her husband's gate, everything changed. No more laughter. No more peaceful nights falling asleep in her mother's arms. Only long, sleepless nights staring at a dark ceiling, listening to the wind howling outside and feeling her chest tighten. Every morning, while the sky was still pitch black, when the whole village was still wrapped in cold mist, the first rooster crow dragged her out of bed. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. If she didn't, she'd hear the yelling, the sneering words that cut into her heart like knives. She started the fire before dawn. The smoke stung her eyes, making her cry as she fanned the flames. After cooking, she had to sweep the yard, scrub every pot, wipe every corner of the house. Before she could even straighten her back, she had to head to the barn, feed the buffalo, carry buckets of water, clean up manure. Then run out to the fields to plant rice, haul soil, and work endlessly under the scorching sun. Her day stretched from before sunrise until deep into the night. People looking from the outside would say, "Oh, what a hard-working daughter-in-law. Such a dutiful wife, so patient, so capable." But little did they know that behind the image of that perfect bride was a young woman being worn down piece by piece. Because inside that very house, the one she poured all her effort into, her work was never appreciated. All she ever heard were scolding words. "Why are you so slow? What kind of girl is this? So clumsy. A new daughter-in-law must not be lazy." The way they looked at her held no affection, only judgment and disdain. Day after day, those words sank into her heart like tiny needles. Not sharp enough to kill her outright, but sharp enough to make her hurt constantly, endlessly. And quietly, Tieu began learning how to endure alone. From the day Tieu married into her husband's family, he had never once shown her a shred of tenderness. Not a single caring question, not a kind word, not even a moment of softness in his eyes. She once believed that time might soften his roughness. But the longer they lived together, the more his violent nature surfaced, like mud washed clean by rain, revealing the rot beneath. If the rice was a little too mushy, if the buffalo wasn't tied tightly enough, if a bowl hadn't been placed back upright, he would erupt instantly. And it wasn't the frustration of a tired man. It was the fury of someone who saw his wife as a servant, yelling, cursing, and even raising his hand against her. The blows came so suddenly that Tieu often couldn't even lift her arms in time to shield herself. All she could do was bite her lip and endure, knowing that resisting would only make things worse. But none of that violence hurt as deeply as something else: the betrayal. Tieu wasn't foolish. She knew her husband had another woman outside their marriage. She had known for a long time, known from the nights he came home smelling of unfamiliar perfume, from the slippery excuses he tossed out, from the indifferent gaze he gave her. She knew, and she hurt. But she stayed silent for one reason: their little daughter. Because she feared that if she said a word, the first person to suffer would be that innocent child. Yet the pain grew sharper when she learned that the other woman had given him a son. And he had the audacity to be proud of it, while she had given birth only to a daughter. A daughter that made her husband's family treat her like a debt that could never be repaid. The village began whispering, They never spoke loudly, but their words always reached her ears whenever she went to the market or the communal well. "San's husband has a mistress. I heard the mistress gave him a son. If they kick San out one day, it wouldn't be surprising." Those whispers were like tiny blades, quietly cutting into her already fragile heart. And then, the most painful moment arrived. One day, walking past the back garden, Tieu San accidentally heard her husband's voice. He was standing beside his mistress, a cigarette between his lips, speaking coldly, not like someone talking about his wife, but about an object. He said, "She gave birth to a girl. Useless. I'm just waiting for the day I can throw her out." Just one sentence. Only one, yet it felt like a hammer smashing straight into her chest. Behind the fence, Tieu San gripped the wooden slats so hard her nails tore and bled. Her throat tightened, her breath caught midair. She couldn't cry. She couldn't scream. She couldn't run. She could only stand there, while her heart shattered piece by piece, quietly, silently, painfully, as if dying and coming back to life in the same breath. In a family where the belief that boys are superior to girls had seeped into their bones like in Tieu San's in-laws, an innocent child like her daughter became the excuse for both mother and baby to be despised without mercy. From the moment the baby opened her eyes to the world, not a single genuine smile appeared in that house. No congratulations. No joyful exclamations. Only expressions of disappointment, dark and obvious, like black ink on white paper. Her mother-in-law was frighteningly cold. She never once picked up the baby. Even when she walked past the cradle, her eyes would only flick over briefly, carelessly, as if glancing at something that had no value. Once, when Tieu San brought the baby outside for some sunlight, her mother-in-law walked by and said coldly, "It's just a girl. No need to fuss over her." Every word from that woman was another shard of glass cutting into Tieu San's heart again and again. Relatives added their own poisoned sympathy. Every time they visited, the aunts and cousins only needed one glance at the baby before shaking their heads. "Oh dear, a girl? What a pity. I thought San would give birth to a son." Some even looked at her husband and clicked their tongues. This family is unlucky, wanting a son to carry on the line but ending up with a girl. What can you do? Those sighs, disguised as pity, were laced with contempt. And then someone finally said it outright, without the slightest restraint. "What's the point of having a daughter? Just another mouth to feed." That sentence hit Tieu San like thunder. She froze, clutching her baby so tightly her hands trembled. The child, innocent, only a few months old, unable to speak, unable to fully smile, was already branded as useless by an entire family. Not because she did anything wrong, just because she was a girl. Tieu San held her daughter tightly to her chest. She trembled, not from fear, but from heartbreak. She knew she wasn't just enduring this for herself. She was trying to shield a fragile little soul, growing up surrounded by venomous words that no child should ever have to hear. She looked at her daughter, those clear, clueless eyes, and silently promised, "Even if everyone in this house hates you, I will protect you until the very end." In that moment, her mother's heart trembled, with pain, and with a strength fiercer than she had ever known. When her mother-in-law heard that her son's mistress was about to give birth to a baby boy, she immediately treated it like a gift from heaven, a blessing the family deserved. Her entire face lit up in a way that made Tieu San's chest ache just looking at it. From that moment on, the mother-in-law's gaze toward Tieu San changed completely. No more fake politeness. No more restraint. No more pretense. Only contempt, coldness, and a deep, bottomless disdain. She looked at Tieu San as if she were an obstacle, a stain she was just waiting for the chance to sweep out of the house. And then one day, during dinner, she spoke plainly. Brutally plainly. No hints. No private conversation. She said it right there at the dining table, in front of everyone. She put her chopsticks down, looked directly at Tieu San with icy eyes, and said, "This family needs a grandson. If you can't give us one, then you should know your place." The entire room froze for a moment. The bowl in Tieu San's hands trembled so much that the sound of rice grains falling onto her shirt could be heard. She couldn't speak. Not because she didn't want to, but because her throat tightened so painfully that forming a single word felt impossible. No one defended her. No one spoke up for her. No one objected to that cruel statement. A minute of silence. Long enough to feel like winter collapsing onto her shoulders. And her husband? He grew bolder, more shameless by the day. Always gone. Every day he claimed he had work, but in truth he was at his mistress's house. Some nights, he didn't even bother returning home. He practically lived outside, as if this house and this wife had never existed. Whenever he did come home, he bragged proudly, "My son is coming soon." To be honest, having a boy is a real blessing. He boasted to his mother, to relatives, to the entire village. Yet never once glanced at Tieu San, as if she wasn't worth even a look. Tieu San lived like a shadow. A silent shadow moving across the front porch, the kitchen yard, the buffalo pen. A shadow that only worked, kept quiet, endured. A shadow no one cared about, no one asked about, no one respected. Sometimes, she even felt as though the house itself was trying to swallow her whole. In the very family she had given her entire life to, Tieu San had become an extra, a burden no one wanted, a ghost they would chase away without hesitation, if the wind blew just slightly harder. And then, the fateful day finally arrived. It was a gloomy afternoon, the cold wind whipping through the yard as if warning everyone that something terrible was about to happen. While the family was busy outside, the notorious sister-in-law, the one who had always treated Tieu San like a thorn in her eye, slipped quietly into the mother-in-law's room. She opened the cabinet, slithering like a venomous snake, and stole the gold jewelry that had been carefully hidden away. Then, with a chilling calmness, she tucked those pieces into Tieu San's laundry basket. Everything was staged too perfectly. Every detail arranged as if rehearsed hundreds of times, enough to turn an innocent woman into a thief with no escape. And then, the play began. The sister-in-law screamed hysterically, "Mom, the gold is gone. Someone stole your gold." The whole family stormed in like a raging storm. No one asked questions. No one checked facts. No one investigated. They dragged out Tieu San's basket of clothes. Opened it. The gold jewelry lay inside, undeniable, damning. Tieu San froze. She knew it wasn't hers. She knew exactly who had set her up. But no one cared to listen. They lunged at her with curses. With blows. Her mother-in-law rushed forward first, spitting venom. Heavens! A daughter-in-law stealing from her husband's family. Disgraceful filth. Relatives circled around, pointing, throwing cruel words like knives. I knew it. Always pretended to be so innocent. Thief. Planning to run away with our things, huh? Tieu San tried to speak, tried to explain through sobs. I didn't take anything. I swear. But before she could finish, a thunderous slap cracked across her face. Her husband stood before her, eyes bloodshot from rage or from finally having the excuse he had been waiting for. Get out of my house. A woman like you doesn't deserve to be in this family. The words struck harder than any physical blow. And her mother-in-law, emboldened, shrieked. She pointed straight toward the gate, her voice sharp enough to tear the night apart. Thief! If you want to leave, then leave now. And take your useless daughter with you. Every word sliced through Tieu San's heart like a blade, because she was not only a woman being insulted, but a mother watching her child be condemned for nothing. In the dark corner of the house, her little daughter burst into tears. A tiny child, too young to understand right from wrong, only knowing fear as she watched her parents scream and her grandparents rage. She clung tightly to Tieu San's leg, her small hands trembling, tears falling endlessly. "Mommy, Mommy, I'm scared." Just that one sentence was enough to shatter Tieu San into 1,000 pieces. There was no way back. No one believed her. No one stood beside her. No one protected her, not even the man called husband. The house she had fought so hard to hold together had long ceased to be a home. It was nothing but a cruel cage where anyone could beat her, curse her, humiliate her and her child. That freezing night, Tieu San walked away carrying her daughter. No belongings, no savings, nothing but her child and the shattered remnants of her strength. The wind struck her face like needles. The ground beneath her feet was cold enough to numb her toes. Mother and daughter staggered beneath the thin moonlight, their shadows long and uneven, threatening to fall with every step. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know what tomorrow would hold. They didn't know whether fate would be kind enough to show them a new path. But, for the first time in years, even with unsteady steps, even with tears soaking her hands, even with the pain tightening her chest until she could barely breathe, Tieu San felt free. Free from the place that crushed her. Free from the insults. Free from the violent nights. A freedom soaked in tears. But freedom nonetheless. That night, on the cold dirt road beneath a sky swallowed by darkness, Tieu San held her daughter tightly in her arms, walking like someone who had nothing left to lose. A door had slammed shut behind them, but ahead, no matter how dark, was a new path. A path she had no choice but to continue walking. Will fate push Tieu San to the very edge? Or, after all the pain stacked upon her shoulders, will life finally offer her a bit of warmth to hold on to? All will be revealed in the next episode, airing tomorrow. Don't forget to follow, leave a comment, and ring the notification bell to walk with Tieu San through this journey, a journey full of tears, but also full of strength. See you all in the next episode.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Bây giờ thì mình đang viết câu chuyện, viết nội dung, viết kịch bản cho video mới. Bây giờ thì mình đang suy nghĩ một chút. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều đã xem video của mình. Tạm biệt và hẹn gặp lại trong những video sau. Bye bye mọi người nha.